On a tense, clouded morning in April, the world's attention fixed on a series of escalating attacks in the Middle East. For the seventh consecutive day, Israel and Iran exchanged heavy blows, each upping the stakes of a confrontation that had already drawn global concern. Reports swept through international newsrooms, fueled by both leaked intelligence and official statements, that U.S. President Donald Trump had recently approved a military plan to strike the Iranian nuclear site at Fordow. The long-touted possibility that the Fordow facility, deeply embedded beneath the mountains near the city of Qom, could become a target, was suddenly front and center. Fordow, built to withstand airstrikes and housing thousands of uranium enrichment, was a symbol of both Iranian defiance and international anxiety. Now, according to senior officials cited in U.S. media, the president stood ready to take action, telling confidants he may do it. These revelations emerged as fighting raged between Israel and Iran. The intensity of their confrontations reached levels unseen since either country entered the shadowy world of proxy warfare decades ago. On Thursday, the Israeli government acknowledged launching a fresh round of attacks on Iranian targets, including in Tehran itself, as well as at missile sites and military infrastructure scattered throughout the country. For the first time, the villages of Arak and Kondar, both known for strategic assets, were. Israeli officials detailed their response. New sorties targeted not just the recently disclosed missile launching zones, but also infrastructure that Iran was rushing to repair or rearm after prior bombardments. Overnight, air defense sirens blared across northern Israel as the military intercepted an unmanned drone fired out of Iran, a stark demonstration that the confrontation was far from one-sided. Eyewitnesses in Tel Aviv reported seeing spirals of smoke snaking through the sky as Israel's Iron Dome intercepted incoming ballistic and cruise missiles. Over one harrowing week, an Israeli military spokesperson said, Iran had fired no fewer than 400 ballistic missiles and launched around 1,000 drones. Though most were neutralized in the air, the hallmark of Israel's sophisticated air and missile defense network, at least 20 missiles managed to evade the shield, striking civilian areas and triggering urgent rescue operations. Across the border, Tehran braced for reprisals. Civilian neighborhoods near critical infrastructure found themselves ringed by checkpoints, with residents urged to remain indoors. The day before, Iran had made headlines deploying its prized Fateh hypersonic missiles against Israeli targets, an act interpreted by many observers as both a show of technological prowess and a warning of its intent to escalate. U.S. intelligence agencies watched closely as the cycle of retaliation sharpened. The very real possibility of American involvement was rife within policy circles. Strategic planners, both in Washington and in Tel Aviv, had watched Iran's slow but determined progress in uranium enrichment with mounting alarm. The Fordow site, sealed deep within solid rock, had long been the focus of debate. Could conventional weaponry neutralize it, or would its destruction require measures riskier and more provocative? President Trump's approval of a contingency strike plan sent a clear signal to both allies and adversaries. Official word from the White House was measured, with spokespeople declining public comment, but regional partners were briefed in private. Israeli officials, already deep in an unprecedented conflict with Iran, welcomed the move as a reinforcement of their own red lines regarding Iran's nuclear program. Tehran, for its part, warned that any U.S. military action would provoke a severe and immediate response. Meanwhile, the humanitarian situation in the region deteriorated. Municipal authorities grappled with the influx of residents from freshly evacuated zones, and international organizations called for restraint to avoid further civilian casualties. While Israeli missile defense systems demonstrated high rates of intercepting incoming threats, the sheer volume of Iran's daily barrages forced residents to live in a constant state of alertness, punctuated by the regular roar of sirens and the distant rumble of explosions. Geopolitical observers noted that the situation had outgrown its previous boundaries. Where proxy conflicts and cyber skirmishes once prevailed, open strikes were now the norm. The approval of a possible U.S. military response risked drawing new actors into the conflict, further destabilizing a region already on edge. As night fell over the Middle East, questions remained unanswered. Would President Trump decide to follow through and authorize an actual strike on Fordow? Would Iran or Israel further escalate? Or would the threat of wider war force a pause? For now, the world watched and waited, anxious for signs of either restraint or a tipping point that could redefine the strategic landscape for years to come.